friends. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you in whatever time zone in the world that you may be listening to this podcast from. So whether you're eating a gym, or you're taking a walk, or you're probably just in your room chilling after a long day, I just want to say welcome to another episode. And yes, it's truly an honor to have you guys come back here. It's truly an honor to know that you people are coming back again listening to this podcast. Okay, I do not take it for granted. I am honored. I am honored to have you guys right on board. I'm honored to have you guys back here again listening to my podcast. Okay, and yes, I trust God for what He has done so far. I trust God for the message, right? And I remember somebody reaching out to me as regard our timing the episode has been to her, and I'm like, okay, this project is actually beyond me, right? To God be the glory, but this podcast is beyond me, and I must do everything within my possible best by God's grace to make sure that I'm giving my best, right? And trust God to help me, because at the end of the day, I believe that I also have to go back to report to God on what He has asked me to do in quotes. And I do not take it with levity. I do not take this podcast with levity. I do not take coming up and sharing or talking to you guys with levity. Okay, so yeah, thank you once again for being here. And yes, how you guys doing? I trust that you are well. I trust that you are enjoying the moment. And please, anyway, think about how you want to figure out the future. Okay, take it step by step. Trust God. Because if we are racking our head thinking about the future, talk to me. What then is the essence of faith? What then is the essence of trusting God? Because of course we most likely wouldn't have the big picture, but we just have to walk on water like Peter. And yes, please trust God. You don't have it all figured out, yes, but at the end of the day, when you look back, trust me, you see how the dots connect. Okay, so yeah, this is me saying I trust you well, I trust you fine, I trust you okay, and I trust God to help you. I trust God to lead you. I trust God to, yes, be a father to you. And yes, allow God be a father to you. Allow Him be a father to you. And I read somewhere a post that says, anxiety is an insult to the fatherhood of God. Okay, please do not be anxious. Of course, you have legitimate reasons to want to be anxious. That will make you be anxious, right? There's so many things you need, especially about the future. So please, like I said, please allow God be your father. That means if God is your father, you have to trust Him completely. Okay, so yeah, I'll say it again. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. I'm much grateful. I am truly, truly, truly grateful. So let's just go right into it, of course. Okay, and we're looking at guidance in decision making in this very episode. And of course, I should have released this episode. If you're listening to this episode, of course, when it's been uploaded, you realize that this is not going to be, it's supposed to be weekly. I made up my mind that releasing this episode will be weekly. But God, show me mercy, because this is going to be released a day after the scheduled day of uploading the podcast. And doesn't be easy, let me put it that way. Yes, life happens, but that doesn't necessarily mean we wouldn't give into consistency. That doesn't mean we treat it with levity, even though there are 1001 legitimate reasons why you shouldn't do a certain thing. I say, so you have been doing it before, and yes, I've been doing it before. So 1 week wouldn't affect taking 1 day off, wouldn't do something. But that's true in a way, trample the effects of consistency, right? So yep, I must be consistent. I should be consistent. So looking at today, we'll be looking at instead of saying today, let me say in this episode, right? We'll be looking at guidance decision making. Okay, so remember when we spoke about Chronos and Kairos timing? That should be like the first episode, right? Yep. When we talk about one being the structured deadline and the other one has to do with opportune timing, right? So we're taking it a bit further in this episode, right? And then, but looking at what we started with in the last episode, we'll talk about how internal pressure affects decision making. There was one point I didn't make during the last episode. I've actually recorded it before I remembered. And what's that point? It has to do with haste. Okay, so one of the side effects, I'll put it that way, of sometimes having timelines that we must keep to a so time, a so age, I must be this, I must be that. It in a way creates haste in us, okay? And that leads to impatience. And that would affect everything that we are doing. Alright, so now looking at this guidance in decision making, how does it really matter? Let's put it that way. Does it really matter? Does guidance actually matter when it comes to decision making? And how can internal and external pressure distort our timing? Okay, so if you've been wrestling with decision making due to the fact that you're overwhelmed or you're just wondering to know when to act, alright, this episode is for you, because decision making isn't about logic. We must know, why does guidance matter in decision making? It isn't just about making 1 + 1 calculations. We will do sometimes, it may work in our favor, but it isn't about logic. I believe that decision making has everything to do with clarity, and it has everything to do with understanding. Okay, let's be honest. It can't be said that we have clarity if we are confused. It can't be said that we have clarity when our emotions are running wild. Okay, that's why guidance is essential. We have just one life to live, and believe it or not, there are people who have gone ahead of us that have the advantage of experience. Okay, they have the advantage of experience, and we are just coming up and we have just one life to live. And guidance is essential because we could end up learning by instruction what took other people years of pain to learn, what took other people 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years to learn. We end up learning by instruction. That's why guidance is important. Okay, that's by so doing, right? By so doing, we end up having the advantage of time. Guidance helps us to have an advantage of time. Okay, let's just take it a bit further. Let's just explore guidance in decision making. So there was a study that was revealed in cognitive neuroscience that shows that people who seek external guidance, whether through mentors, whether by faith or by trusted advisors, end up making better long-term decisions than those who do it alone. You may be wondering how that is possible. Okay, it is because when we are emotionally invested, we tend to lose objectivity. When we are emotionally invested in a course, right? It could be career change, we would end up losing objectivity. So guidance helps us to see beyond the now. It helps us to see beyond the moment, and it also helps us to consider the big picture that we are not even seeing. Consider the big picture that we didn't even take off right in the first place. Okay, so looking at a real life example, right? I read a story rather of someone who had two jobs. Okay, one was high paying, and the other one was just a job in oil and gas. And of course, this would, in a way, so many of us can, in a way, relate with this. Not, when I mean relate, I'm talking about in terms of the sector we find ourselves in. But I'm talking about we having to choose between two jobs. It's something that is common with you young people, right? And after this lady sat down to weigh our options, okay, looking at which one pays better. Of course, that is very important when it comes to choosing jobs. You and I will just look, when it comes to job, which one is paying better? So of course, there's no one that wouldn't in any way look through that. Of course, we must consider our options. So she was considering, which one? It has a promised prestige, of course, but with it comes stress. With it comes the intense work. Okay, you must put in the work, and that one is not small thing. While the other one has the lower paying job, but it aligns with our passion for community development. If you are to learn or if you are to seek advice, many people would say go for the money. Okay, especially in Nigeria, where securing financial stability is really, really a thing. But after she began to make her research, after she opened up and spoke to a mentor and spending time in prayer, she realized that fulfillment is more important than fast cash. I know many of us look at that stuff and shake head. Who be this person? God, why is that this opportunity is not coming to me? Why am I not having this particular opportunity, Jehovah? Like, you are seeing one that pays you where, and there's this prestige, there's this class that comes with it, and somebody's telling you follow passion. Like people would say, or when the young people would say, "Oh, passion help." Oh, passion don't help. But she said, okay, Peter said, go for the one that has to do with her passion. And so 5 years down the line, she was leading impactful projects across Africa, and that is something that she wouldn't even have traded for anything. One was obviously the best choice, and the other isn't. Now, looking at it from that perspective, looking at it from that side, when I say, I beg, what's the odd that she would have probably be leading projects across Africa? But it's important that I state that when we live life, especially when making decisions, I know and I believe that fulfillment is what should be the center stage. Fulfillment should take the center stage when it comes to making decisions, life-changing decisions, or following a career path, as the case may be. Just as setting an example, it's important that we put fulfillment at the forefront, right? Or let me just give another example so we would relate properly, so we could understand the necessity of guidance, why it's important. Okay, and there was a particular story I read again about a man named Tunde. So for those of us that are non-Nigerian, don't worry, just flow, don't rack your head about the names. But yeah, so there was a particular person named Tunde who is an ambitious entrepreneur in the city, in the also and bustle city of Nigeria, which of course is the center of excellence, Lagos State. Yeah. Lagos State, Ekoni Bajo. So yes, so Tunde had saved up to start a logistic company, a small logistic company as a side hustle. But his friend kept pressuring him, invest in cryptocurrency, because everyone is making quick cash. That is better and more sustainable than having a small logistic company. It doesn't come with the stress. It doesn't there's no stress whatsoever. Invest in cryptocurrency. Due to the pressure from his friends, of course, now they're my friends, now they're my guys, they're my G's, they cannot lead me astray. So he almost in a way gave into it. and something just say, Oga, let him just seek counsel. Let him just seek counsel. That was just, let me just seek counsel, right? And after he seek counsel from a seasoned businessman who advised him to stick with what he understood, to stick with the route he was familiar with as at that time. Okay, so the result was that he went on to build a business that was thriving while all of his friends lost their investment in crypto crash, right? Of course, we all know the volatility, or even if we don't, we all know how volatile cryptocurrency is. But that is not the case. This is not to devalue or to destroy, let me put it that way, or make what's the right word I would use now, or in a way, let me say, bring down the importance of cryptocurrency. I don't know, that statement is not correct, but that is the only thing I can take up from my head right now. How can you bring down something, bring down the importance? But I'm sure you get what I'm saying, Sha. So there is it. So, but the goal is that the point is that a wise decision today can save you from years of regret later. Because at the end of the day, what really matters is fulfillment. That is what matters, right? So when it comes to decision making, when it comes to timing decision making, I know we've heard it again, but we need to understand that when to move and when to wait is important when it comes to timing decision making. When to move, when to take action, or when to just wait, despite the fact that you've already gotten the resources, the knowledge necessary. We must know when to move, when to take necessary action, or just chill. Okay, because many a times it could seem that, or many a times we make decisions because we feel that we are running out of time, or maybe we have been held too long second guessing ourselves, and then the opportunity passes. Both is dangerous, right? Because we need to know when to take decision and when to act and when to wait. Like that, I believe that is wisdom, because there are times that wisdom will demand that you do certain things at certain time. There are times that wisdom will demand that you just hold up. There are times that wisdom will demand that you speak. There are times that wisdom will demand that you keep quiet, despite the fact that you have so many things to say. So also with timing in decision making, when to take an action or when to just chill out, right? Research, I stumbled on a research which I would want to share with us. So it is a research from the Journal of Behavioral Decision Making that found out that people who act under pressure without proper guidance are 40% more likely to regret their choices. Meanwhile, those who hesitate for too long, they often miss key opportunity that would afford them growth. And that is worth taking note of. If you take the wrong step, right, without proper guidance, you're going to regret it. And if you hesitate for too long, you would often miss the key timing. You often miss the opportune timing. Yeah, that is the right phrase. The opportune timing that could just be the deal breaker. That could just be the changing moments, right? Even looking at it from the lens of the scripture, when the Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 that there is a time for everything, a season for every activity under the heavens. But yeah, it's a common scripture, right? What does it literally mean? If we are to look at the translation, what does it mean? It means that not every opportunity is meant to be taken immediately in the context of what we are talking about. And every delay could sometimes be wisdom, and sometimes it could be fear that is holding us back. Every action could sometimes be wisdom, and sometimes it could be haste that's making us act. That is why it's important that by wisdom we know when to take actions certain actions, we know when to move, or we know when to just chill. Okay, let me just take it again. There are times that we delay, right? It could be as a result of wisdom, and sometimes as a result of fear. And there are times that we take appropriate action. It could be as a result of wisdom, or it could be as a result of impatience, or it could be as a result of impatience. We are hasty, right? So when we are about to take decisions, there are important questions we should or we can ask ourselves. Do I have peace about this decision? Have I prayed or sought wise counsel? Or am I acting out of faith or fear? These three questions are quite important in our decision-making process. Do I have peace? Have I prayed or have I sought the right counsel? This action I'm about to take or I'm not taking, is this as a result of faith or am I being fearful or hasty? Permit me to share a story from a man named Aliko Dangote, okay, the African richest man. That man didn't just wake up one day and decide to dominate the cement and sugar industry. He's a man that has diverse businesses across sector, right? He didn't just wake up and say, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He was once faced with the decision to expand aggressively into a new market or stabilize his existing businesses. And of course, many of us, if we are in this position, we receive advice such as go into it. But yet, it is a known fact, right, that he sought guidance, he analyzed his risks, and waited for what I would call the right economic climate. So when he eventually made his move, it was at the perfect time, positioning his firm, that is the Dangote Group, as a global powerhouse. So timing isn't just about speed, it's about strategy, right? You know when to move. So you know if you have to move or take an action, or if you necessarily just have to wait, right? So that is it. Timing isn't necessarily about speed, it's about strategy due to wisdom, right? Strategy due to wisdom. And even considering this story, I wouldn't even say story, but yes, this one that each and every one of us, let me not say each and every one of us, because many of us are not even considering it at the moment. We said no. And what is that? That would have to do with relocating, right? Some of us will call it here in Nigeria, we'll call it Japa. So let me just share this story. Here is someone that is dreaming of relocating to Canada for better career opportunities, which of course is valid. But just as she was about to sell everything that she had at that time and to leave and just take the risks of living, she sought a mentor, the opinion of a mentor. Instead of rushing to sell her properties, instead of rushing to do so many stuff that was needed at that point in time, due to the advice of her mentor, she upskilled, she built a stronger financial foundation and applied for a better visa option. Okay, then years down the line, it was noted, or it was revealed rather, that she moved up under a better program. She moved to Canada under a better program with a higher salary and more stability. So what then is in a way, the moral lesson of this thing I just shared now, of this story I just shared now? Is very simple. Okay, rushing would have made her struggle, but waiting made her thrive. That just speaks about timing in decision making. There are times you have to take actions, there are times you have to move, but there are times you have to wait. Just chill. Okay, just chill. That's why it is important that we seek guidance. Okay, we seek guidance when it comes to decision making. We seek guidance, especially the one that is capable of altering our life, such as marriage, such as relocating, such as even changing career paths. Sometimes it is important that we seek guidance, because there are times that you would have to wait, and there are times that you'd have to take action. But either of them, you just need to understand if it's wisdom, or you are probably taking action due to haste, or you are waiting due to fear. Okay, so how does God speak? Because it's important that we hear God. It's important that we hear God. And I'm a type of person that believes so much in hearing God before making certain decisions. Okay, of course, there are different ways God speaks. There are different ways that God speaks to each and every one of us. But I want us to know that God isn't silent. Yeah, He guides us through different ways, and we just need to listen. We just need to pay attention. Right? We just need to pay attention. Of course, I already said it. Of course, yes, God leads through different ways. So what are the ways that God leads? What are the way He guides? What are the way He speaks? Primarily, He speaks through His word. Okay, the word of God is the roadmap to this life, and He speaks through prayer, and He speaks through peace. Because many a times the peace you'd receive is from God. Many a times God leads through peace. God often leads through peace. And yes, one way that God leads is through wise counsel. Okay, we're talking about guidance here. One way that God leads is through wise counsel. Come on, there are people that have experiences, life experiences, and you would learn by instruction what took them years to learn, years of pain, years of struggle, right? So one way that God leads is through wise counsel. God speaks through people. He speaks through trusted mentors. He speaks through spiritual leaders. Okay, and they give wisdom. They impact wisdom. And yes, another way that God leads is through circumstances. So sometimes a passive closed door could be God's way of redirecting us. A passive open door doesn't necessarily mean it's from God. Okay, this is why I believe in, yes, by the help of God, trusting God and praying. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do nothing. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to not delay. Okay, what I'm trying to say is through the help of God, by His word, right, by peace that He gives you sometimes as an answer to your prayer, and through trusted mentors, through trusted friends, through spiritual leaders, right, through spiritual leaders, He helps us to redirect our steps. It helps us to direct our steps. So He helps us to direct and redirect our steps depending on the situation we put. That's why it's important that we are given to guidance. We cannot in any way know it all. It's not possible that we know it all. The way God created us not as an islander. I don't know if that English is correct, but we cannot thrive in isolation. No one thrives in isolation. No one has ever thrived in isolation. We are dependent of other people, especially those that have gone ahead of us. So we must make sure we utilize wise counsel, utilize our relationship with people, because it's going to help us in the long run. So my dear friends, decision making is a process, not a sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint, not an 100-meter race, not another meter dash. It's a marathon. So if you are facing a major decision, it's important that you seek guidance and don't do it alone. Timing matters, right? But don't rush. And at the same time, don't stop. Yes, timing matters. The right time matters. The ideal moment matters. But don't rush it. That's why it's important you get into God's word and you pray about it. You listen to God's voice. You watch out for God's voice. You wait for God's voice. Right? And by the message of God, you have someone that you can trust, such as a mentor, who could be someone in your field, who could be a spiritual leader, of course, that would challenge you and would guide you in the right path to go. And yes, you would have to trust God that is leading you even when it doesn't make sense yet. That is your essence of faith. It just wouldn't make sense. It defies common sense. Faith defies common sense. That is why we must trust God. We cannot have the bigger picture, the whole picture, not the bigger picture. Sometimes we may not even have a bigger picture, self. Sometimes we may not have the bigger picture. But what then is the essence of faith? Okay, so we need to trust God. We need to walk on water. Yes, we need to learn to walk on water. But one thing is certain, that anyone who trusts God, especially with his life, can never drown. Nah, you can never drown, no matter how boisterous it may be. Of course, you will never sink. You've got this, and more importantly, God has got you. Exactly. You just need to know that you already have this in your hands, but more importantly, God has you in his hands. Okay, that's what I would say. God is holding you in his hands, never to let you go. Never ever to let you go. Okay, so please, guidance is important when it comes to decision making. Even if you do not get anything from this episode, I want you to know one thing, that you learn by instruction what took people years of pain or labor or even struggle to learn. And by so doing, you have the advantage of time. So please, my friends, I want to beg you, please and please, if I don't mind if I have to turn it to a ringtone or turn it to an harmony or a melodious song at this point, but please seek counsel. You just wouldn't know how your life will connect, especially if you are one that is worried about the future. But when you look back, you will see the connecting dots. There is wisdom in seeking the right counsel. There is wisdom in appreciating wise counsel. Okay, so that is it for this episode, and I want to say thank you for listening. And if this episode hits home, please share with a friend. Please share, and you never can tell, you may be helping someone. I trust that this episode has given you value. Okay, it has helped you. I trust God that it has. Okay, so yeah, please, I beg you again, enjoy the moment. So please, enjoy the moment. Trust God. Don't worry yourself about the future. Do not be anxious. Take away anxiety. Okay, anxiety is an insult to the fatherhood of God. So right until next time I release a new episode, which of course is next week, by the way, keep asking questions, keep seeking, keep growing, and remember, if at all naim bad pass, your next step is always covered in grace. Remember that statement that I just made. Remember this statement that I just made. Your next step is always covered in grace. So until next time, bye bye.